Junior Observer 69 scratched at their crystalline exoskeleton, a nervous habit that had developed during their monotonous night shifts at the Galactic Council's Deep Space Monitoring Station. The holographic displays cast an eerie blue glow across their faceted eyes as they monitored the vast emptiness between galaxies. Another quiet night in Sector 7, just like the 1,000 nights before. Until it wasn't. The signal started as a pinprick of light on the quantum frequency scanner, barely distinguishable from background radiation. 69 almost dismissed it as another cosmic anomaly, the kind that filled report quotas but meant nothing. Then the pinprick grew, and with it came a signature that hadn't been seen in council space for 5 centuries. Their appendages trembled as they initiated emergency protocols. Senior Observer, we have a Class H signal. Senior Observer Krelltox burst from their meditation chamber, all 4 arms already typing commands into various interfaces. Impossible. Class A designations were purged from active monitoring after the Exodus. System malfunction. No malfunction. 69 whispered, their voice crackling with fear. Quantum signature matches historical records. It's them. The humans. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Krelltox's scales shifted from their usual calm green to a sickly yellow. They both knew the stories. Every species in council space did. Humans. The upstart race that developed faster than light travel independently, that refused to be contained, that threatened the very fabric of galactic society with their unchecked progress. The species that had to be exiled for the greater good. The signal grew stronger. Data streams flooded their monitors, revealing the impossible. A vessel larger than any the Council had ever constructed, emerging from the void between galaxies. Its design was both familiar and alien, clearly human in origin, but evolved far beyond anything recorded in historical archives. Hess Nemesis. Krelltox read aloud from the identification beacon. That's impossible. The Nemesis was lost during the Exodus. It carried their last colony cluster. Millions of them. The ship's dimensions defied comprehension. Multiple rotating rings, each large enough to house cities, spun gracefully around a central axis that stretched for kilometers. Energy readings suggested power generation that made the Council's most advanced reactors look like children's toys. As they watched in horror, a transmission cut through all security protocols, broadcasting on every frequency simultaneously. The holographic display materialized above their station, showing the human female. Dr. Amanda Blake stood tall, her dark hair streaked with silver, eyes burning with an intensity that made both observers take an involuntary step back. To the Galactic Council and all sentient species of the Milky Way, she began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries. 500 years ago, you cast us into the darkness between galaxies, believing we would perish. Instead, we thrived. We evolved. And now, we've come home. She paused, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. We bring with us knowledge that will reshape your understanding of the universe, technologies that will transform lives, and a choice that will determine the future of all species. The transmission cut off, leaving the monitoring station in silence. But the fear in that silence was palpable, because they both knew this was just the beginning. 69 looked at their superior, mandibles clicking nervously. Should we notify the Council? Krelltox was already sending emergency broadcasts to every Council member. The Council knew this day might come. They had contingencies, weapons platforms, entire fleets hidden away. Their voice trailed off as new data scrolled across their screens. The Nemesis was already passing through the galaxy's outer defense grid. Not a single automated system had activated. By the first light, Krelltox whispered, "They're not just more advanced. They're beyond us in ways we can't even comprehend." The humans had returned, and with them came the dawn of a new age, whether the galaxy was ready or not. The Council's emergency session erupted into chaos as ancient defense systems across 3 sectors simultaneously went dark. On the central holoscreen, Red warning indicators blinked out one by one, like stars being swallowed by an invisible void. Impossible. High Counselor Vexnar slammed all 6 appendages against their crystalline podium. These systems were designed to be unhackable. The encryption alone would take centuries to 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Actually, a new voice cut through their chambers. The holoscreen flickered, replacing the defense grid display with the image of a human male. Lieutenant Commander Jack Morrison leaned back in what appeared to be a control chair, his neural implants glowing a subtle blue against his temples. Though I'll admit, your quantum encryption gave me pause. For about 3 seconds, the council chamber fell silent. Even the youngest among them recognized the significance of a human breaching their most secure communication channels. Nothing like this had happened since before the Exodus. I've taken the liberty of deactivating your more aggressive defensive measures, Morrison continued, his fingers dancing through holographic interfaces only he could see, particularly that nasty little virus you had aimed at our life support systems. Elegant work, by the way, almost poetic in its complexity. High Counselor Vexnar's scales rippled with rage. How dare you? Oh, and I'm also declassifying your historical archives. All of them. Morrison's smile widened. The truth about why you really exiled us. It's already trending on your information networks. Across the galaxy, billions of beings received unexpected data packets. Files opened themselves, revealing carefully hidden truths. How humanity had achieved in decades what took other races millennia. How their rate of advancement had terrified the Council. How the decision to exile them had been made not out of concern for galactic stability, but out of fear of becoming obsolete. In the council chambers, secondary screens showed the spreading chaos. On frontier worlds and core planets alike, beings of all species gathered around public displays, watching in stunned silence as 5 centuries of lies unraveled. You'll destroy everything. Vexnar shrieked. The careful balance we've maintained. You mean the technological stagnation you've enforced. Morrison's voice hardened. The innovations you've suppressed. The species you've kept dependent on your guidance. His neural implants pulsed brighter. That ends today. Through the windows of the council chamber, massive holographic displays materialized in the sky. They showed scenes from aboard the Nemesis, children playing in artificial gravity parks, scientists working in laboratories that defied understanding, medical bays where injuries that would be fatal in council space were healed in minutes. This is what you feared, Morrison said quietly. Not that we'd destroy civilization, but that we'd show everyone a better way. That we'd prove your whole system was built on lies. A new alert flashed across the council's screens. Their secret weapon platforms, hidden in dimensional pockets around strategic worlds, were powering up. Vexnar's scales shifted to victory purple. You may have compromised our standard defenses, they sneered, but you couldn't possibly have found. The platforms fired, and nothing happened. Morrison actually laughed. Those? We found them 3 hours ago. Quite innovative, by the way. We've already adapted the technology and improved it by about 300%. The research teams are quite excited. The Council watched in horror as their ultimate weapons simply dissolved. The very fabric of space, they were hidden in rewriting itself according to laws of physics they didn't understand. Dr. Blake sends her regards, Morrison said, preparing to end the transmission. She suggests you take the next few hours to consider your options. Oh, and don't bother with that quantum tunnel escape system you're all eyeing. I locked it down first thing. He winked. Wouldn't want anyone missing what happens next. The transmission cut off, leaving the council in darkness broken only by the glow of their spreading secrets in the sky above. Their perfect system, maintained for millennia, had been dismantled in less time than it took to hold a proper emergency session. And this, they all realized, was just the beginning. Harmony 7 was anything but harmonious. The mining colony's toxic atmosphere swirled with acidic storms, forcing its inhabitants to live in deteriorating dome structures. Outside, Automated harvesters extracted precious minerals for the Council's war machines, while inside, families struggled to afford basic air filtration. When the HSS Nemesis appeared in orbit, the colony's emergency sirens blared. Parents rushed children to underground shelters. Security forces manned their obsolete defense turrets. Governor Zoltek prepared the colony's surrender message, hoping to at least save some of their lives. But the expected attack never came. Instead, Dr. Amanda Blake's voice echoed through every communications device. People of Harmony 7, we've analyzed your situation. Your atmosphere is poisoned. Your children are sick. Your resources are stripped away. We're here to help. Look up. From the Nemesis descended thousands of silver spheres, each about the size of a human fist. They spread across the planet's atmosphere, pulsing with a soft blue light. Within minutes, the perpetual acid storms began to clear. Atmospheric processors, Blake explained. They're rewriting your air at the molecular level. You can watch the progress on any display screen. Governor Zoltek stared at the real-time data in disbelief. Toxicity levels were dropping exponentially. This is impossible. The Council said cleansing an atmosphere would take centuries of terraform. The Council, Blake interrupted, has been wrong about a lot of things. More vessels descended from the Nemesis. Sleek medical ships landed near the main domes, their doors opening to reveal advanced treatment centers. Human doctors, their neural interfaces glowing softly, began treating the sick with technology that seemed like magic to the colonists. A young Harmony 7 child with crystalline lungs damaged by toxin exposure watched in wonder as nanomedicine reconstructed her breathing crystals. Her mother wept as her daughter took her first full breath in years. In the colony's power center, Jack Morrison materialized through a quantum teleporter, making the local engineers jump. Your fusion reactors, he said, walking to a control panel, are painfully inefficient. Mind if I make some adjustments? Before anyone could respond, his neural implants interfaced with the system. The constant drone of overworking machinery quieted to a gentle hum. Power output quadrupled. Emergency batteries, drained for decades, filled in minutes. We're leaving you the schematics, Morrison said, already heading for the next facility. Simple upgrades should hold you for a few decades until you can build something better. By hour 12, Harmony 7 was transformed. The atmosphere sparkled with newly cleaned air. Hospitals emptied of chronic patients. Power flowed freely to every dome, every home, every forgotten corner of the colony. From her command center on the Nemesis, Dr. Blake watched the celebration below. Humans and colonists mingled freely, sharing meals, stories, and hope. Her neural interface pinged, signaling an incoming council transmission. You've violated 16 different non-intervention protocols. High Counselor Vexnar's voice trembled with rage. This is a direct challenge to council authority. No, Blake cut them off. This is a demonstration. You exiled us because you feared we'd disrupt your perfect system. Want to know what we learned out there in the void? She gestured to the scenes below. True power isn't about control. It's about lifting others up. The other colonies will hear of this, Vexnar warned. There will be demands. Good. Blake smiled. That's exactly what we're counting on. You see, Harmony 7 isn't a target. It's a beacon. And this. She looked at the display showing thousands of messages already spreading across council space, carrying images of Harmony 7's transformation. This is just the beginning. She ended the transmission and turned to her crew. Next colony. The humans grinned, their neural implants pulsing with shared excitement. This was their true revenge, not destruction, but demonstration. Not conquest, but liberation. On Harmony 7's surface, a colonist child picked up a flower growing through newly cleaned soil. It was the first plant to grow naturally on the planet's surface in 3 generations. The revolution wouldn't be fought with weapons. It would be won with hope. Agent Krell, The Council's most decorated Black Ops operative, led his elite team through the quantum breach they'd carved into the HSS Nemesis's outer hull. Their stealth suits, the pinnacle of Council technology, bent light around them as they infiltrated what they assumed would be a military vessel. What they found defied everything they'd expected. "Sir," his second-in-command whispered through their neural link, "these aren't military corridors. They're neighborhoods." Krell stared in disbelief. The massive chamber they'd entered wasn't filled with weapons or soldiers. Instead, a sprawling city stretched before them, built inside a rotating ring that created its own gravity. Parks with real trees dotted the landscape. Children played in artificial streams while their parents watched from nearby cafes. The air smelled of flowers and fresh-baked bread. "Maintain position," Krell ordered, but his hands trembled as he recorded everything through his helmet cam. "This has to be a facade." They moved deeper into the vessel, expecting to find the military heart behind this peaceful veneer. Instead, each discovery became more extraordinary than the last. Schools where children learned to manipulate quantum fields as easily as Council children learned to write. Medical facilities where diseases deemed incurable were treated routinely. Laboratories where scientists casually reshaped the laws of physics. Agent Krell. A calm voice spoke directly into his mind, bypassing all their communication security. "You've gone to such trouble to visit. Why not join us properly?" Their stealth fields dissolved. Standing before them was Dr. Amanda Blake, completely unprotected and smiling. Behind her, residents went about their business, barely paying attention to the heavily armed infiltrators in their midst. "Fascinating tech, your stealth suits," she continued, gesturing to their now visible equipment. "Would you like to see how we improved on the design? Our children use similar principles in their hide-and-seek games." Krell raised his weapon, training years taking over. "Don't move. You're in violation of." "Oh, put that away," Blake sighed. "If we wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it past the outer hull. Come, let me show you what you really came to see." Against all protocol, Krell found himself following her. They passed through research centers, where scientists manipulated dark matter with casual ease. They watched engineers test drive systems that bent space itself. But it was the ordinary scenes that truly shook him. Families sharing meals, artists creating masterpieces, children learning and playing. "Where are your weapons?" Krell finally asked. "Your armies?" Blake stopped at a window overlooking a vast agricultural dome. "We found something better than weapons out there in the void. We found perspective." She turned to face him. "You know what the Council really feared about us. Not our technology, not our adaptability. They feared that we'd show everyone a different way to live." She gestured to his still recording helmet cam. "That's why you're still transmitting to your superiors, isn't it? Show them. Show them everything." Krell looked at his team, seeing his own shock reflected in their postures. "They'll never believe it." "They already do," Blake smiled. "Your transmission isn't just going to the Council. It's being broadcast across every colony world. Unedited. Live." Krell's neural link exploded with incoming messages. Billions were watching. The Council's carefully maintained narrative was crumbling in real time as they witnessed not a warship, but a thriving civilization that had achieved everything the Council had claimed was impossible. "You're not here to conquer us," Krell realized, finally lowering his weapon completely. "No," Blake agreed. "We're here to remind you who you could be." She held out her hand. "Would you like to learn more?" Krell hesitated only a moment before reaching out. Behind him, his team removed their helmets one by one, their eyes wide with wonder. The ghost ship wasn't a phantom to be feared. It was a mirror, showing the galaxy not what they were, but what they could become. And the transmission kept broadcasting, carrying hope across the stars. The Arthropodian Hive Queen Sixil watched the recorded footage for the 100th time, her compound eyes fixed on a scene that challenged everything she'd been taught. On the screen, A human child played quantum bubble games with young arthropodians, their laughter transcending species barriers. The neural feedback from her connected hive thrummed with unprecedented emotions: wonder, hope, and something more dangerous: desire for change. The council speaks of human barbarism. She addressed her assembled hive mothers, her antennae quivering with suppressed excitement. Yet in 12 days since the Nemesis arrival, they've healed 3 dying worlds, shared medical technology that saves millions, and shown us wonders we never imagined possible. Through their hive link, she felt the ripple of agreement, though tinged with fear. The arthropodians had been the Council's most loyal enforcers for millennia. Change didn't come easily to a species that valued order above all. A quantum burst announced Dr. Amanda Blake's arrival in their chamber. The human stood calmly before the gathered hive mothers, her neural implants pulsing softly in sync with their own biorhythms. "Your children are gifted," Blake said without preamble. "Their ability to process quantum information through your hive mind. It's extraordinary. But the Council has you using it to coordinate trade routes." She shook her head. "They're playing chess with a supercomputer." Exiles' secondary hearts quickened. "What do you mean?" "Let me show you." Blake interfaced with their central neural node. Suddenly, the chamber filled with holographic projections, mathematical models, scientific theorems, artistic expressions, all flowing through the hive mind in ways they'd never imagined possible. "This is how your children could think," Blake explained. "Not just connected, but transcendent. The Council taught you to be worker drones. We can help you become something greater." Through the hive link, Exiles felt her species' potential unfurling like a cosmic flower. Tears of biochemical joy leaked from her primary eyes. "Why? Why would you share this with us? After what we helped do to your people?" Blake's smile held no bitterness. "Because 500 years ago, you were just following orders. Now, you can choose differently." The chamber's quantum communicator chimed. High Counselor Vexnar's voice filled the space. "Hive Queen, you are ordered to mobilize your fleets. The human vessel must be destroyed before." Exiles cut the transmission. Through the hive link, she felt millions of her children awakening to new possibilities. Worker drones looked up from their tasks, soldiers lowered their weapons, and in schools across arthropodian space, young minds blazed with newfound potential. "The arthropodian hive," she announced, her voice carrying to every member of her species, "will no longer enforce the Council's fear. We choose evolution. We choose hope." Across their territory, ships designated for war transformed into exploration vessels. Research centers, long restricted to approved Council projects, erupted with innovation. And in orbital stations, arthropodian children began learning alongside human teachers, their natural gifts flourishing in ways the Council had never allowed. On the Nemesis observation deck, Jack Morrison watched the arthropodian revolution unfold. "They're adapting even faster than we predicted," he noted. "Their hive mind is. It's beautiful." Blake nodded. "The Council feared them too, you know. Any species with true potential was either controlled or eliminated. But fear." She watched as the first joint human arthropodian research team made a breakthrough in quantum communication theory. Fear is giving way to something stronger. Through the viewport, they could see other ships approaching, representatives from younger races, inspired by the arthropodians' choice. The revolution wasn't being fought with weapons but with ideas, not with soldiers but with children playing across species barriers, not with conquest but with the simple act of showing what was possible. In her chamber, Exiles felt her species' future crystallizing into something magnificent. "We are not worker drones," she broadcast through the hive mind. "We are not soldiers. We are explorers, innovators, dreamers." The Council had feared humanity would bring terror. Instead, they brought transformation. And across the galaxy, revolution dawned not with a bang, but with the sound of children laughing as they reached for the stars. Chief Science Officer Marcus Reynolds stood before the emergency session of the Galactic Scientific Assembly, his neural implants casting a subtle glow across the ancient chamber. Before him, the greatest scientific minds of every council race watched with a mixture of skepticism and barely concealed curiosity. "Your entire understanding of precursor technology," Reynolds began, his hands manipulating holographic data streams, "is based on a lie." The chamber erupted in protests. A quantum elder of the Vexori rose, their crystalline form vibrating with indignation. "We have spent millennia studying the precursor artifacts. Our entire civilization is built upon reverse-engineered human technology," Reynolds interrupted, his voice calm but firm. With a gesture, he filled the chamber with three-dimensional schematics. "These are the quantum drive designs your species discovered in a precursor vault. And these," another gesture, "are the prototype designs from the Harvard-MIT Engineering Archives, circa 2157 Earth date." The similarities were undeniable. The assembly chambers fell silent. But that's impossible," the quantum elder whispered. "The dating protocols on the artifacts were artificially aged using temporal manipulation, a process, I might add, that we humans developed before our exile." Reynolds walked through the holographic displays, highlighting key components. "Look at the quantum interference patterns, the mathematical constants, even the material composition. It's all human technology, deliberately hidden and disguised as ancient artifacts." Dr. Amanda Blake materialized on the platform beside him, making several assembly members jump. "The council didn't just exile us," she continued. "They took our achievements, buried them in false archaeological sites, and doled them out over centuries to maintain their power." Reynolds interfaced directly with the assembly's central computer, bypassing centuries of security protocols. Historical records cascaded across the displays, proof of the council's deception, carefully hidden beneath layers of bureaucratic obscurity. "Your species aren't less capable than humans," he explained, his voice softening. "You were deliberately held back. Every time a race came close to a breakthrough, the council would conveniently discover a precursor artifact that guided your development along controlled lines." A young arthropodian scientist chittered excitedly. "The quantum resonance patterns in our latest research. That's why they seemed familiar. We weren't rediscovering precursor science. You were reaching humanity's level independently," Blake finished, and that terrified the council more than anything. Across the chamber, scientists began pulling up their own research, comparing it to the human archives Reynolds was sharing. Centuries of mysteries began unraveling. Questions that had plagued researchers for generations suddenly had clear answers. "Your civilization's greatest crime," a voice boomed from the entrance, "was not your technology." High Counselor Vexnar strode in, flanked by security drones. "It was your refusal to be controlled." Blake's smile was razor-sharp. "Funny you should mention control." She nodded to Reynolds, who lifted his hand. Every security drone in the chamber suddenly powered down. "Did you really think," Reynolds asked quietly, "that we wouldn't recognize our own defense systems? The ones you stole and claimed were precursor artifacts." Vexnar's scales shifted to battle red. "Security override Omega Red 7. Won't work," Blake interrupted. "None of your overrides will. Because here's the real secret. Humans never stopped innovating. What you stole and parsed out over centuries, that was our beginning. Out there in the void, we had to evolve beyond everything you thought possible." Reynolds opened one final data stream. "We're releasing everything. All of it. Our complete technological archives, our educational systems, our research methodologies. No more artificial barriers. No more controlled development." The assembly erupted in chaos, not of anger, but of excitement. Scientists from every species began downloading data, their neural interfaces glowing as centuries of suppressed knowledge flooded their consciousness. "You'll destroy everything," Vexnar hissed. "No," Blake corrected. "We'll free everyone. The terror you feared wasn't our technology. It was the truth." She turned to address the assembly. "The universe is bigger than their lies. Who's ready to explore it together?" The answer came in 1,000 voices, a chorus of species united not by control, but by the pure joy of discovery. The revolution of minds had begun. Morgan Steele stood in the Nemesis Quantum Control Center, surrounded by holographic displays showing thousands of points of light scattered across the galaxy. Each light represented a dormant research station, secretly seeded during humanity's 5 centuries of exile. Her neural implants pulsed with anticipation as she initiated the activation sequence. "All teams report ready," she announced, her voice carrying to both the human crew and their new alien allies. "Beginning Operation Lightbridge in 3, 2, 1. Across the galaxy, the dormant stations awakened. Each one unfurled like a technological flower, revealing arrays of quantum communicators that humanity had perfected in the void. The lights on the display began connecting, forming a web of instantaneous communication that bypassed all known laws of space-time. On thousands of worlds, beings watched in awe as new structures emerged from hidden dimensional pockets. The Council's communication monopoly, built on controlled networks of relay stations, became obsolete in minutes. "Quantum network stability at 99.9%, Steele reported, her fingers dancing through interference patterns. "The Council's attempting to jam the signals, but," she smiled, "they're trying to stop a tsunami with a paper fan." Dr. Blake materialized in the control center, followed by representatives from 24 species. "Show them," she instructed. Steele nodded and opened the network. Instantly, the chamber filled with voices from across the galaxy. Scientists sharing discoveries, artists collaborating across species barriers, children teaching each other games from their homeworlds. Ideas flowed freely for the first time in galactic history. "This is impossible," a Vexari scientist whispered, their crystalline form vibrating with emotion. "The energy requirements alone would be impossible with the technology the Council allowed you to have," Steele confirmed. "But we found something better." She gestured to a seemingly simple crystal sphere pulsing with inner light. 0-point energy manipulation. Infinite power, 0 pollution. And now, her smile widened, it belongs to everyone. Through the quantum network, they watched as the knowledge spread. World after world gained access to clean, unlimited energy. Communities that had been kept dependent on Council resources suddenly found themselves free. In the Council's emergency chamber, High Counselor Vexnar received reports of their communication systems failing as populations switched to the human network. "Cut them off," they ordered. "Shut down there. Your override codes won't work anymore." Steele's voice came through every speaker. "Actually, none of your codes will work. See, while we were setting up the network, we did a little housekeeping. Found all those backdoors you built into everyone's systems. Closed them. Permanently." On the main display, they watched their control systems go dark. Centuries of carefully maintained surveillance and manipulation protocols evaporated. "That's not all we found," Steele continued, her voice hardening. "We discovered your contingency plans. The hidden weapons platforms, the engineered plagues, the slave protocols buried in your approved technology." She paused. "We've neutralized them all." Dr. Blake stepped forward. "You had 500 years to build a better galaxy. Instead, you built a prison. Well, the prisoners are free now. And they're already building something beautiful." Through the quantum network, they could see it happening. Species that had been kept apart by Council decree were sharing technologies, combining their unique perspectives to solve problems that had plagued them for generations. Art and music flowed freely between worlds. Children from different species attended virtual classes together, their natural creativity unchained. "The network is yours now," Steele announced to the galaxy at large. "We've made it self-maintaining, self-evolving. No one can control it, shut it down, or use it to dominate others. It's as free as you are." A young arthropodian scientist raised their appendages. "But what's to stop us from making the same mistakes? From using this power to—" "Nothing," Blake interrupted gently. "That's the point. Freedom includes the freedom to fail, but it also includes the freedom to learn, to grow, to become more than what others decided you should be. Steele looked at her display one last time. The web of light had become a tapestry, connecting not just communication nodes but hearts and minds across the galaxy. The Council had feared humanity would bring terror. Instead, they brought truth. And truth, once freed, could never be caged again. In the transformed Council chambers, now renamed the Galactic Concordat, Dr. Amanda Blake stood before representatives of every known spacefaring species. The HSS Nemesis, visible through the vast crystalline windows, was undergoing its final transformation into Unity Station, a permanent symbol of cooperation rather than conquest. The Council's fears were right about one thing, Blake began, her voice carrying to billions through the quantum network. Humanity's return did change everything, just not in the way they expected. Holographic displays showed the changes of the past month. Poisoned worlds renewed, sick children healed, ancient barriers between species crumbling. Where the Council had predicted war, there had been healing. Where they had expected revenge, there had been redemption. Former High Counselor Vexnar, now serving as just one voice among many, rose to speak. Their scales, once battle-red, had settled into a peaceful blue. We were wrong, they admitted. For millennia, we thought leadership meant control. You've shown us it means elevation. Blake smiled, but her expression quickly turned serious. Which is why we need to talk about what's coming. She nodded to Morgan Steele, who initialized a new holographic display. The image showed something massive approaching from intergalactic space, something that made the Nemesis look tiny in comparison. While we were in exile, Blake continued, we detected this. It's why we developed most of our technology, why we evolved so rapidly. The hologram zoomed in, revealing a structure that defied conventional physics. We call them the Devourers. They consume galaxies, and they're heading for ours. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Jack Morrison stepped forward, his neural implants projecting data streams. Our calculations give us 30 years. Alone, even with our technology, humanity would fail. But together, he gestured to the gathered representatives. Each of your species has unique gifts, perspectives we never imagined. Together, we might have a chance. Through the quantum network, they shared everything. Their research, their preparations, their failures and successes in understanding the threat. No more secrets, no more controlled development. Just billions of minds working together across species barriers. This is why you didn't seek revenge, the Arthropodian Hive Queen Sixil realized. Why you focused on healing and connection rather than punishment. Exactly, Blake confirmed. The Devourers aren't just a physical threat. They're entropy incarnate. They don't just consume matter. They consume possibility. Hope, the very potential for life itself. She walked among the representatives, making eye contact with each. To fight them, we need more than weapons. We need a galaxy united in the belief that tomorrow can be better than today. Lieutenant Commander Morrison brought up another display, showing the combined fleet already under construction. Ships designed by human engineers, powered by Arthropodian quantum matrices, protected by Vexari crystal technology, and crewed by volunteers from every species. We're not asking you to follow us, Blake said softly. We're asking you to join us, to take the freedom we've helped restore and use it to protect not just our galaxy, but all possible galaxies to come. One by one, the representatives stood, not in the rigid order the Council had enforced, but in an organic wave of unity. Their voices joined in agreement, transmitted across the quantum network to their billions of watching citizens. On Unity Station, formerly the Nemesis, children from 100 species played in gardens grown from seeds humanity had preserved through their exile. In laboratories, scientists who once served the Council worked alongside human researchers, combining methodologies no one had imagined possible. In the newly established academy, Young minds from across the galaxy learn not just technology and science, but hope and courage and the power of working together. Blake watched it all from the Concordat chamber, her heart full. A small child, part human, part arthropodian, approached with a flower grown in Unity Station's gardens. "Is it true?" the child asked. "Did your ship really bring terror?" Blake knelt down, accepting the flower. "No, little one. We brought change. And change only terrifies those who've forgotten how to hope." She looked out at the gathered species, once divided, now united. "The real terror," she smiled, "is what we'll accomplish together." The future stretched before them, full of challenges but bright with possibility. And this time, no species would face it alone.